Welcome inside Ohio Stadium, where Ohio State just made a statement to start the season, particularly Ohio State's defense making a statement to start the season. 14-7 win over number one ranked Texas coming into this game. So much hype around Arch Manning and what that Texas offense could be with him. They score just one touchdown. Ohio State's defense comes up with 4 fourth down stops and what I think could only be described as a masterclass in Matt Patricia's first game.
I'd say that's a perfect description, Dan. And I think each level of this defense had phenomenal stretches. To me, biggest standout between the linebackers and the defensive backs, it's hard to pick. I mean, both those position groups were so incredible today. Arvell Reese, I shout out to me a little bit. I had him as my player to watch today. I'd say he lived up to that. Really just the monstrous. I mean, how many linebackers do you see just physically overpower offensive tackles and guards? We saw multiple plays where Arvell Reese lines up on the line of scrimmage. Some more Matt Patricia brilliance there, I think, using him in so many different spots in this game. Lines up on the line of scrimmage, knocks back that guard, that tackle, gets pressure, or even gets a sack on Arch Manning in this game. Really maneuvering in there. And then Sonny Styles laid some big hits in this one, was flowing downhill. They played so well off of each other. Really effective, those two. I mean, they both looked dynamite. Arvell Reese looked like an All-American in this game. But on the back end, I mean, Lorenzo Styles Jr. stood out in a big way in this one. Obviously, Jermaine Matthews, the interception. Jalen McClain, there at strong safety. I think the pursuit, what he was able to do in run support, but also in coverage, was able to hold up really well on the back end. Davison Igbinosun makes the game-clinching PBU, and Caleb Downs is Caleb Downs. I mean, the back seven of this defense looked like the best in America today, point blank.
And I think the defensive line had a great game, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, we saw Kenyatta Jackson, the guy who's been regarded as the leader of their defensive line, go down in the third quarter with an injury. He was unable to return to the game. And, at the end of the game, I mean, C.J. Hicks, a guy who we've all been waiting for 3 years to become a playmaker for his Ohio State defense, he hits Arch Manning, forces him to throw short of the sticks, makes the play. I thought Caden Curry flashed. I thought Bo Atkinson flashed. I thought, Edric Houston, Caden McDonald, both had a good game in there as both starting defensive tackles. So I thought just across the board, I mean, anytime you hold the number one team in the country to 7 points, you played a damn good game on defense. And I think across the board, I mean, we think about this defense. We talked about it so much all offseason. This is a defense that lost 8 players who were all selected in the NFL draft last year, and all comfortably selected in the NFL draft. I mean, those were 8 guys who were elite players for that Ohio State defense last year. And you don't come out of this game today saying like there was even any one point that you could say a weak point on that defense. Again, I mean, you talked about it. Guys like Lorenzo Styles Jr., Jalen McClain, really stepping up and looking very good in their first game, playing major roles on Ohio State's defense. And so you come out of today's game, I think, having just immense optimism in what this defense could be. Now, granted, it's just one game. I mean, I know at one point you kind of made the comment to me like, I think this defense might be better than last year. It's like, well, it's just one game. I mean, I think back to 2022 and Jim Knowles in his first game, similar game to this one, top 5 matchup against Notre Dame, dominant performance. They allow only 10 points. And then obviously, the end of the year, the way that year ended, some rough defensive performances against Michigan and Georgia. So long way to go. One game does not make a season, but certainly you come out of game one thinking Ryan Day really hit a home run with Matt Patricia.
Absolutely. On the offensive side, there were some hiccups, but in the end did what it took to win, and I think that's the biggest compliment you can give Julian Sayin from this game. No, the stats weren't gaudy. No, he didn't immediately go out and throw for 350 yards, go out and dominate, but he didn't lose the game, and that was enough when the defense was playing the way it was playing. And honestly, just really good decisions with the football. For a guy making his first start, you said it as we were coming off the field. If you said, hey, which of these 2 quarterbacks is making their first start today? Which is the least experienced guy? And you watched both of them without knowing anything about them, you would say Arch Manning. I really think, because Julian took care of the football, barely ever put it in harm's way. He had an underthrown pass to Carnell Tate. There was a contested ball to Brandon Innes. Those were kind of the closest he came ever to really being in danger of throwing interception. Was willing to take the checkdowns. Really, I mean, the stats probably would have been more impressive if not for the 3 drops that Ohio State had in the first half. Killed a couple drives there. But I was really impressed with Julian's talked about it in the post-game press conference. His poise, and again, that decision-making, willing to take care of the football and not press the issue as a young quarterback.
Ohio State didn't win the game because of Julian Sayin, but Julian Sayin is a big reason why Ohio State didn't lose the game.
Yep.
When you think about it, there were all wide range of outcomes of what we could have seen from Julian Sayin today. And one of those outcomes was you're playing in front of 107,000 people against a defense. But I think based on what we saw today, I think we're going to be talking about both these defenses all year as two of the best defenses in the country. I think that Texas defense is excellent too. They did a great job, once again, even without Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba, of really limiting what Jeremiah Smith could do in this game. They were not, even with the offense, but as Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Innes, Max Clare, there were very few times in this game where Ohio State had receivers running free. And that's a big credit to Texas's defense, Pete Kwiatkowski, the defense they've built there. I think this is one of the best defenses, if not the best defense, but Ohio State is going to face all year. And Julian didn't necessarily make the spectacular plays, but he didn't make any freshman mistakes. He was composed. He didn't throw the ball into bad spots. He looked veteran-like out there, like I said. And Arch Manning, the guy who came in with all the hype, we finally saw Arch heat up a little bit those last couple drives of the game. But until then, it was pretty rough for the people who a lot of people were calling the Heisman frontrunner coming into the day. So again, that's a big credit to the Ohio State defense. Certainly, a lot of credit goes to Julian Sayin for the way that he performed in his first start as a Buckeye.
Absolutely, and look, Texas contained Jeremiah Smith, contained Carnell Tate, contained the passing game. They couldn't stop it though, and big shout out to Carnell Tate. I mean, early catch of the year contender, right? That 40-yard touchdown pass that put Ohio State up 14-0 and final score is 14-7. That's ultimately the game-winning touchdown. To bat the ball to yourself off of a defender's hand, basically, like they both reached for the ball, him and the defensive back there. Carnell bats it up to himself, secures it. We've always heard how strong Carnell's hands are. His other catch, too, coming back on the sideline, was a huge first down conversion. Carnell, when he needed a play, when Ohio State needed a play, it was able to turn to Carnell Tate. And to your point, they're not going to play Texas every week. These defenses that don't have Pete Kwiatkowski calling their plays, that don't have the defensive backfield and the complex schemes, and that will play Ohio State later in the season when these guys have more chemistry. I mean, if Carnell Tate is able to do that alongside what Jeremiah Smith is doing, it's scary. It really is. Yeah, Ohio State going to certainly have an opportunity to work on itself and improve next week when it welcomes Grambling State to the shoe. But for today, an outstanding performance for the Buckeyes. We both got to eat some crow. We were wrong. We both picked Texas to win, so we gotta acknowledge that we were wrong. But I'm happy to be wrong.
You know what? You know what? They went out there. They made us. And I was thinking about it, Andy, as we start this. The last time we did one of these after a noon game here at Bashoud 9 months ago, and how different the mood was, and how different the narrative was around Ryan Day after losing that game to Michigan. Now, he's beaten 5 top 10 opponents in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, how drastically. Yeah, the Michigan thing's still out there. I mean, it managed to be a storyline this week thanks to Dave Portnoy, and we're going to be hearing about the Michigan thing all year long. But the way that this team, this program, and particularly Ryan Day, has bounced back from that Michigan loss 9 months ago has truly been impressive. And now you come out of today's game thinking, it's only one game, long way to go, a lot of things to clean up, especially on offense. But you go, man, this is a team, they've got a chance now.
They proved today that they're in the hunt to repeat as national champions. And as much as, last year's narrative was about bouncing back, was about what happened in that Michigan game, I'll reserve my thoughts on Dave Portnoy and what was done with Big Noon kickoff for a later date. But
that's for 11 Warriors Live tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. We'll discuss it there. But yeah, this, I think, as impressive as the bounce back was from that team after it lost to Michigan, how they let it galvanize them rather than ruin them, rather than tear them apart. You lose so many leaders from that team, and what we saw all offseason, a lot of teams can talk about avoiding complacency coming off a championship. They can talk about, hey, new guys are going to step up as leaders. It's next man up. But they lived it today. They lived it by showing that there are new leaders on this team. There are new stars that are going to come to the forefront. We just listed off a whole bunch of them. So that continued narrative of being able to avoid the complacency, to find new leadership, and to, again, make that statement and prove you're still in the title hunt. Can't say enough about this performance from Ohio State today.
Lots more coverage to come on 11warriors.com. As I just mentioned, we'll be live with our colleague Chase Brown tomorrow at noon for a full recap of this game, 11 Warriors Live. So be sure to join us then. If you have your questions, jump on, ask questions. We'll be happy to spend a lot more time talking about this game. But for now, he's Andy Anders. I'm Dan Hope. This has been After Carmen. We'll catch you next time.